Hello folks, and welcome back to another video. We begin on August 3rd, 2023, and I am located alongside Norfolk Southern Sandusky District and CSX's Burt line at the Schrock Road Railroad Crossing in Worthington, Ohio. On this day, I wasn't really planning on going out to see anything, and that ended up being the case until I watched a Norfolk Southern mixed freight train pass a rail cam that's located on the Dayton District. Trailing second on the mixed freight in question was a WFRX ex-BNSF SD70 Mac. Even though this is not the first time I've seen a WFRX SD70 Mac, I decided to go out and see if I can catch it while Norfolk Southern's leasing it to combat their power shortage. Within about 15 minutes since my arrival, the first train of the afternoon would make its way southbound down the Sandusky District, specifically a very late Norfolk Southern 28N on another daily journey between Chicago, Illinois and Charlotte, North Carolina, with a trio of AC-44C6Ms on point. Now, what would happen next about an hour later would be rather interesting, as here we see two Norfolk Southern mixed freights meeting right in front of me, one going north and one going south. I wouldn't end up getting either of the symbols for the mixed freight trains, but I have reason to believe the one in the background is Norfolk Southern 118, which runs between Bellevue, Ohio and Lynwood, North Carolina, while the one in the foreground with the WFRX SD70 Mac trailing second, I have reason to believe is NS-178, a daily Irondale, Alabama to Bellevue, Ohio train. catching those 3 trains at Schrock Road, I returned to the same location about a week later on August 9th, 2023. On this day, I really didn't come out with any specific goals in mind. I just came out to see what I can find and hopefully get lucky and see something cool. The one train I would end up seeing at Schrock Road today would once again be Norfolk Southern Intermodal Train 28N, on another daily run between Chicago, Illinois, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Shortly after 28N passed, it became clear that there were no other signs of other trains in the area, so I decided to backtrack a little bit until I reached CSX's Columbus subdivision at the Route 161 railroad crossing in Worthington, Ohio. The reason why I came to the Columbus subdivision was because I actually knew of something that was coming down the Columbus subdivision at this time, specifically an ethanol train. Once I got to the Columbus subdivision, there was already a green signal, and about 25 minutes later, the ethanol train in question would make his way south through Worthington, specifically CSX B651, an as-needed loaded ethanol train that comes off of the CPKC Railroad in Bensenville, Illinois, and goes all the way down to Charlotte, North Carolina, with a pair of CSX Gevos leading the way. Now, I don't do this as much as I used to unless if I'm giving an exposition dump during certain sections of the video explaining what is going on, but I thought I would explain this here. As I was walking across the tracks to get back to my car and leave for the day, I noticed the bottom signal for the same track B651 just went down, lit up to be a lunar white, meaning restricting. These signals would tell a train crew that would end up passing them to slow down to the point where they can safely stop within half the range of seeing any obstructions ahead. This would end up being the second time that I actually got to see one of these signals, and considering that this meant there was another southbound on the heels of B651, I decided to stay and catch that train as well. Less than 5 minutes behind the B651 was our second train, which was a CSX southbound loaded grain train. I unfortunately didn't get the symbol for this one though. After seeing some action from both railroads, I then moved several days later onto August 12, 2023, and I am located at McCord Park in Worthington, Ohio, next to Norfolk Southern Sandusky District and CSX's BERT line. On this day, I really didn't have any plans on going out to see anything, and that was the case until I got a text message notifying me that a Norfolk Southern rock train was coming off of the Dayton District, and all 3 of its locomotives were running long hood forward. With that knowledge in mind, I decided to go out and see if I can catch it. Even though my plans were unsuccessful, I was not left empty-handed. With little time to spare, the first train of the day for me was a Norfolk Southern southbound intermodal train going down the Sandusky District with a mixture of Union Pacific and BNSF 4 in power, and I have reason to believe this is NS 266, a daily Chicago, Illinois to Columbus, Ohio intermodal train. About an hour later, another Norfolk Southern southbound intermodal train would grace the Sandusky District, which in this case was the staple of the Sandusky District, NS 28N, our daily Chicago, Illinois to Charlotte, North Carolina intermodal train, with another dose of Union Pacific 4 in power trailing third. After 28N cleared, I decided to call it a day and head home. However, a green automatic signal at Park Road made me change my mind, and I decided to come back. What I thought was the rock train ended up being a northbound mixed freight train. I did not get the symbol for it, but I have reason to believe it's NS 170, the daily Chattanooga, Tennessee to Conway, Pennsylvania mixed freight train, with NS 4006 in the lead. I decided to leave the beginning of this sequence untouched for you and as well as myself, so you wouldn't hear me talking over 4006's musical gift of a Leslie RS5T air horn. After seeing another trio of Norfolk Southern trains, I then moved several days later onto August 16th, 2023, and I found myself back alongside CSX's Columbus subdivision at the Route 161 railroad crossing in Worthington, Ohio. On this day, I was watching the virtual railfan camera up in Fostoria and noticed a CSX B635 ethanol train taking the connection from the Willard subdivision to the Columbus subdivision with a mixture of Canadian National and BNSF foreign power. As I set out to catch B635, little did I know that I would recreate the magic that the Columbus subdivision sometimes has to offer, which I witnessed not too long ago. As soon as I pulled up to the Columbus subdivision, there was a train already bearing down on the railroad crossing. I had just enough time to get my phone recording in time for this southbound mixed freight train. What I thought was L457 ended up being M635, only miles away from finishing its run between Selkirk, New York and Columbus, Ohio. After M635 cleared, I decided to make my way south to the location that I was intending to watch B635 pass. I would find myself one more railroad crossing to the south of 161 at the Go Down Road railroad crossing, only yards away from the north end switch of the center siding located here. With less than 30 seconds to spare, I was able to hit record on my cell phone in time to see CSX L457 as he thundered his way across Go Down Road on his way from Walbridge, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio. Shortly after L457 made his way across Go Down Road, I noticed one of the signals just north of Go Down Road was showing a clear, meaning that a northbound train was not too far away. With that knowledge in mind, I continued my way south until I reached the Bethel Road overpass in Powell, Ohio. This was the location that I was planning to catch this train and potentially B635 once that train showed up. Within about 5 minutes of me getting here, the northbound train made its way across the bridge crossing Bethel Road. The mystery train in question would end up being a northbound empty ethanol train. I didn't get the symbol for this train, but judging by the Canadian Pacific hopper tucked in right behind the ES44AH in the lead, I have reason to believe that this is B650, coming back up from Charlotte, North Carolina, and heading back to the CPKC Railroad in Bensenville, Illinois. After B650's end train DPU passed me, I ultimately came to the decision to come back to the Route 161 railroad crossing in hopes of seeing B635 there, as I noticed the sun would not provide adequate lighting for B635 once it passed. After waiting for about 30 minutes, some headlights approached from the north which belonged to my ethanol train. CSX B635 is an as-needed job that comes off the Iowa Interstate Railroad in Blue Island, Illinois, and heads for Wadesboro, North Carolina. Our colorful trio of GEs leading B635 today would include a former demonstrator ET44AC, now in CN Red and Black, as well as a CN-9 and a BNSF ES44C4. After seeing 4 trains on the C&O, I returned to the same location several days later on August 22nd, 2023. A couple days leading up to this, I saw a conversation between a couple moderators on the virtual railfan camera in Deschler about a CSX B261 leaving Chicago with a pair of CN ES44ACs still painted in City Rail colors. However, once B261 got to Ohio, the former City Rail pair was unfortunately taken off and replaced by a pair of CSX locomotives. However, the second CSX locomotive assigned to take B261 was a C40-AW. Despite the change in power, I still thought it was good enough to go out and try and catch. Once I got to the Route 161 railroad crossing, one of the signals was already green, meaning that a southbound was not too far away. In similar fashion to one of my previous trips over here, the green signal was actually for CSX M635, once again only miles away from finishing its run between Selkirk, New York and Columbus, Ohio. About 25 minutes later, and after watching the signal raise from restricting all the way to clear, the next southbound through here was the southbound that I was waiting on, CSX B261, an as-needed molten sulfur train that comes off the Canadian National Railroad in Chicago, Illinois, and heads for Lee Creek, North Carolina, with CSX C40-8W 7805 trailing second today. After B261 cleared, I then made my way over to the Norfolk Southern Sandusky District and CSX's BERT line at McCord Park in Worthington, Ohio. Even though I already accomplished my goal of seeing CSX B261, I came here with interest of seeing if there were any other trains in the area, and I was only going to stay here if there was clear indication that there were other trains in the area in general. After watching a southbound mixed freight train pass the rail cam at Delaware, I noticed it had a Union Pacific AC 6000 rebuild in the lead. When I eventually saw the headlights of a southbound train quickly approaching, I was hoping it was the mixed freight train with the AC 6000 in the lead, but it actually turned out to be a southbound loaded grain train. I would eventually see the Union Pacific-led train a little bit later after the grain train passed, but I didn't see that he had his headlights on, so I decided to move down to Park Road and figure out what the deal was. But by the time I got there, the train was already making its way past the railroad crossing, so that ended things kind of abruptly there, so yeah. After the previous outing ended abruptly at McCord Park, I returned to the same location a week later on August 30th, 2023. On this day, when I was finished up with class, I looked at the virtual railfan camera up in Fostoria and noticed Norfolk Southern 28N had an SD70M-2 trailing third today. Even though this ended up being one of the rare times I don't end up seeing 28N, I was not left empty-handed whatsoever. The first train to grace the Sandusky District this afternoon would be a Norfolk Southern southbound mixed freight, specifically NS 171, on a daily journey between Conway, Pennsylvania and Chattanooga, Tennessee, with a very dirty Union Pacific SD70 Ace trailing second. With a solo ET44AC in the lead, the next southbound through the area was NS266, a daily Chicago, Illinois to Columbus, Ohio intermodal train, and quite the short one today. A little while later, as I was walking up to the signals to check and see if there were any more southbounds in the area, I saw the headlights of a northbound. The pair of Norfolk Southern GEs and the BNSF GE sandwiched between the two are leading northbound mixed freight train 19W from Winston-Salem, North Carolina to Bellevue, Ohio. As I was once again walking up to the signals to check and see if there were any other southbounds in the area, here comes a Norfolk Southern northbound loaded coke train. One brand spanking new 4700 series AC44 C6M is all that this loaded coke train needs to get to its destination. After that outing came to a close, this is where we now conclude yet another video. As you saw, this month of train action was pretty spaced out on both CSX and Norfolk Southern, but Norfolk Southern was still able to pull out a victory. Am I getting a little tired of that? Sort of, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. You also may have noticed the lack of big train trips throughout the summer, like to Marion, Fostoria, Berea, etc., etc., and that's mainly because I had other things I needed to take care of throughout the summer. The one train trip I did end up taking this summer, it was serving more than just the sole purpose of me going out to see trains. Lastly, with the next semester of college starting up for me, activity on the channel is going to slow down a little bit, but I'll still be uploading here and there throughout the semester. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Leave a like or a comment down below to share your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and tap the notifications bell to be notified when a new video gets posted on the channel. Till next time, this is All Ohio Railfan, signing out for the summer. See you soon!